Hi, parents. It's Emily Nelms, the school counselor here at Somerset Skye Canyon.
And Jacinth Umala, the Safe School Professional.
We're here today to give you a lesson on the signs of suicide and how to spot them in your child or children.
So our objectives today are, just to give you some information on what to look out for as far as, your children may be spending more time at home. And it may be things that they say about their friends too. So it may not just be your children, but maybe children that your kids are friends with. And so that you're aware of what those signs are and who to contact if you need support. So we'll be talking about, common myths, the prevalence of depression and suicide, warning signs and risk factors, and what you can do when you identify the signs. You want to talk to your kids and get help.
So one of the biggest myths that is around is talking about suicide with your child is risky because it might put the idea in their head. This is actually false. You do not give a suicidal person any suicidal thoughts by talking about suicide. The opposite is actually true. So bringing up that topic and discussing it openly with your child is actually helpful to let them know that you are there to support them and that these thoughts are not as abnormal as they may seem to your child.
Another myth is that people who talk about suicide won't really do it, and that is false. We want to make sure that we're taking the things that anyone says essentially seriously in order to make sure that we address wherever that is coming from. Almost everyone that's died has had warning signs or said certain things that were red flags. So we don't want to ignore any suicide threats. Any statements like, you'll be sorry when I'm dead, or I can't see any way out, no matter how casually or jokingly said, may indicate serious suicidal intent. And if someone is saying something, that's actually a good thing. It means that they want to talk about this, that they're suffering or they're in pain and they want assistance. So we actually want to see that as an invitation for a conversation and support.
And it's really important to understand that, especially with our current climate, that when children are saying things like this, that we take them seriously. Just there's a lot going on in the world, and so that's kind of why we're doing this presentation as well. So the facts: there are approximately 100,000 teen suicides between the years 1975 to 2015 that have committed suicide. Boys take their lives 3 to 4 times more than the rate of girls, and suicide is the second leading cause of death for 11 to 17-year-olds. These statistics are not 100% accurate. There are cases of suicide, and they're a little misleading. So there are cases of suicidal thoughts and completions younger than 11 years old, and girls are more likely to ask for help. So it doesn't mean that boys are more suicidal. It just means that boys are more likely to complete suicide than girls.
Some of the warning signs are going to be being preoccupied with death in conversation in their writing or their drawings, making suicidal statements, giving away belongings, withdrawing from friends and family, having aggressive or hostile behavior, neglecting personal appearance, running away from home, risk-taking behavior, and any change in personality from upbeat to quiet. So if your kid is typically one way and you notice that they're acting drastically different than they usually do, then it doesn't necessarily mean that they're automatically suicidal or anything like that, but it does warrant investigation and seeking support depending on, what comes from that investigation. So if you ever feel like your kid is acting differently, off, you don't know how to put your finger on it. Maybe they don't necessarily want to be open with you about how they're feeling. That's why you have supports, here at the school and in the community to help you not have to deal with that on your own.
And you know your child best. So if you notice a change in them, especially right now, because we don't have eyes on them all the time. They're at home with you. So if you notice a change, that is a red flag, and it's worth a phone call to us, at least, to communicate and see how we can support you. So this is just a graphic that we can go over really quickly. So suicide warning signs. So negative view of self, a sense of hopelessness, isolation or feeling alone, aggressiveness and irritability, possessing lethal means, feeling like a burden to others, drastic changes in mood or behavior, frequently talking about death, self-harm, like cutting behaviors. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're suicidal. Just so you know, self-harm does not mean that your child is thinking of suicide. Engaging in risky behaviors, making funeral arrangements, giving their things away, substance abuse, making suicidal threats.
So these are some more warning signs as far as examples of what you might see or hear your kids say. This is not a complete list. This is just some things off of the top to be on the lookout for. So saying things like nothing matters. I wonder how many people would come to my funeral. Sometimes I wish I could just go to sleep and never wake up. Everyone would be better off without me. You won't have to worry about me much longer. I want to die, or I don't care anymore. And again, anything that's said or drawn is an invitation for intervention. And so I can only imagine how emotional and how scary, the realization of, a kid saying these things could be, but just see that as them in the best way they know how, reaching out for help.
So the don'ts on how to react. So it is very hard to hear your child say these things, but it's important to not overreact or minimize what they're saying. It's so easy to be like, what? Are you crazy? How could you say that? That's ridiculous to say. You don't mean that. That's not going to, that's going to stop that conversation, that invitation that Ms. Wamala was explaining, and they're not going to open up to you. So, and you don't want to let that, your child's depression or anxiety snowball and get out of hand. So those are the big don'ts that you don't want to overreact or let your child's depression snowball.
Do's on how to react. So you want to listen as best you can in a non-judgmental way. And, what your child is trying to say is, I need your love and attention because I'm in tremendous pain and I can't seem to stop it on my own. Now, kids developmentally are not probably going to say a sentence like that, but that's what it translates to when they are essentially giving you these bids to connect by saying those things that are a little bit alarming. You can calmly say something like, I see you must really, really be hurting inside, or you can even just ask them to tell you more, even sitting in silence with them. But for them to not feel judged by you is going to be a part of what helps them to heal, because they probably already feel bad about themselves or the things that they're thinking or going through. And so we don't want to confirm that in our behavior around this topic.
Yeah, and they don't want to burden you, so it's hard for them to communicate. So making sure that you are available and open to hearing what they have to say. So some risk factors. So these are the things that can increase suicide risk. So if you've had multiple losses in your family from death, suicide, or illnesses, or family members, if there's a major disruption in the family, like a divorce, suffered abuse and neglect, exposure to any kind of violence, witnessing or experiencing family abuse, any kind of learning difficulties, chronic mental illness, poor school performance, and chronic absenteeism, which is essentially missing school frequently. So these are the things that increase suicide risk based off of research.
So protective factors are the things that decrease the chances, okay? Social circle, obviously that looks a little bit different right now, but in our last newsletter, we included things like lunch bunch and different ideas on how to get creative on cultivating that social environment for your kids. Having a strong sense of self-worth and or self-esteem. So, if your kids like to play instruments, if your kids like to cook or be creative or whatever it is that they enjoy, really kind of giving them opportunities to shine in those things will help them to build their self-worth and self-esteem. Safe and stable environment. So, there's a lot of different things going on right now, and what we're dealing with could be in some way, shape, or form affecting the stability of the environment. But to the best of our ability, creating consistency and things that predictability that the kids can expect, maybe routines or structures in a certain way, can be really helpful. And then connectedness, right? So, connecting with them yourself, allowing for them to connect with their peers if at all possible via a Zoom lunch bunch or, chatting with their friends when it's appropriate, and with your supervision and things like that. We're doing our best to host lunch bunches and start groups soon and things like that so that the kids have opportunities to connect with us as well as other kids via Zoom on our groups and other meetings like that.
So ACT to help. So we're going to go over this acronym. So A is for acknowledge that you are seeing signs of depression or suicide and that it is serious. C is for care. Let your child know that you care about them and you can help. T is for talk. So reach out to the school counselor or our safe school professional and call on professionals for resources for support.
So you can find us. Both were on the website as well as our email addresses are here. And our entire job is to make sure that we're supporting, your children that go here and as well as you and your family. And so, if you even have a question about something, feel free to reach out. If you're not sure about something, reach out. If you are sure about something, reach out. Mainly, we can be the ones to kind of support you and help you to know which direction to move in. And it's our pleasure to serve you. So don't feel at all like, that it's a burden or anything like that, because that's literally what we're here to do.
Right. And just a reminder that we have our school counselor website that looks like this, that we're continuing to put resources on and easy access to email us. So just a reminder. But thanks so much for listening and taking the time. I know that the current climate is very challenging, not just for your children, but for you as well. So we understand that taking any time to do anything extra takes a lot. So we appreciate you, and please reach out if you have any questions or concerns.